Hi everyone, this is Harsh here, and Pooja and I were just having a random chat, and we got to talking about the future of the education industry as a whole, and the future of the country, and other industries too in the post-COVID environment. And I thought it was a pretty interesting topic, so we decided to record it. So this isn't a planned podcast. This is something we just decided to do at random. So here goes. The question I had asked Pooja was, do you think in the future we will still have physical coaching as the primary medium, or the primary medium of education would be digital for professional courses and courses that are taken after a certain age?
Okay, so uh, I think we can discuss a little about how the opinions of people changed. So before COVID, a lot of teachers they used to look down upon online coaching. So I remember a teacher saying that people who don't have students studying from them in their local centers, they are the ones who are shifting to online. Because just because they don't have a market, they want to push the content online, and that's how they want to grab the audience's attention. But their opinion completely changed during the lockdown and when COVID happened. And a lot of teachers, they even started coming to us, and now they wanted to build a structure of their own, because local tuition teachers, I mean, they're good with their subject matter, but then they didn't have any, n- they didn't have the technical know-how to create the entire structure of online classes,
It
because
was very sudden
obviously the
for
parents
them.
won't. Yeah, exactly. So obviously the parents are not going to pay for the months when the child is not going to the tuition and learning anything. So yeah, that shift, that mindset shift happened during the COVID. Speaking about the future, if you would ask me about the professional courses, I really believe that it will be largely affected, specifically the physical coaching centers, they will be largely affected. uh, will they be completely, I mean, out of the market? I have some doubts about it, but yes, uh, a lot of these coaching centers, they have already shifted to the online models, or some of them already had some sort of online model in place. So I'll tell you what, my brother, he did this course on networking from a center in Gurugram. Okay, and they had nothing. I mean, even though it was, it was a center who used to impart knowledge or coaching on technology, okay, networking or all these circuits and routers, but
They themselves had no
after lockdown,
technology.
yes, they themselves had no technology of online, and they're out of business. They have shut down their office. I'm not kidding. And it was a good, I mean, it is a good reputed center in Gurugram for networking education. So I mean, it came as a surprise. I really did not think that people like these, at least they would have some sort of infrastructure with them, but they completely are out of the business. And the students who did the courses, they're out of jobs as well, because they want now placement assistance, and now they're going to these people and they're saying we don't have any staff, all of them left. So that's what has happened. So
Do
yeah,
you think, as a trend, this
specific.
might continue, where
Mhm.
people who are not online would go out of business, and eventually only people who have an online, say, outlet would be around?
See, in the online sector, I do believe people who are completely online, who are completely offline, they will face setbacks in their business, because see, it's been a long time since this lockdown happened. So the attitude of people has also shifted. Now they also want to study at at their own comfort level. So for example, there are a lot of challenges with offline model. Okay, so the class is there, you have to go there, and if you're missing it out, you do always have the option of having a backup. But what if there is no backup option available, or you will have to adjust your timetable accordingly? So that's when the online model really comes into play. And that's why, I mean, we sort of had this, combined model wherein we would teach students in the offline center, and if they're not able to attend the classes, we would provide them backup in their in the form of online lectures in their mobile phone or the kind of app. So it has to be a combine. If it's completely offline in the brick and mortar model, I really think that they're definitely going to have a hard time.
Interesting. So I've been learning computer science, right? And I watched this lecture that was by Harvard, and in this, the professor said that this was the first lecture, and the professor said something like, "You can come to class if you want, and if you don't want to come to class, you can just watch this class online." So what they've done is they've recorded these lectures, and people who don't want to wake up early in the morning and come to that class, they can just watch it later on. And what the guy said was, our classroom can house a certain number of people, and the number of students taking this class are two or three times that. And so by default they were assuming that most people were not going to come to class, because he said that if you're not on time you might not find a seat. So, and people are comfortable with that. So I think this might become the future, where if you want to come to class, that's fine, but we will have an online version as well.
Hmm. I mean, it's interesting because I'm reading this book. It's about the EdTech space only, and I don't remember the name of the authors because it's quite a difficult name. One is Shahid Alvi for sure. I don't remember the name of the other author. So this book is, talking about they're sort of, in a way. I mean, it's actually facts, but they have a negative tone to it. They sort of criticize the EdTech space. So education, I think across everywhere, across all the economies, it's considered as, some sort of a social kind of thing, wherein, the right of education, that everybody should have the right to education, and I mean, it's not necessarily that you have to be paying for it. It's not necessary that you have to pay for it. But the problem these people have with the online space is that the scale is massive, and the motive of, doing a social thing, it kind of is not the basis for the online space, because online is all about scale, it's about profits. So now people are having problem that they are creating profits out of education. Now that's something they're not able to digest. So uh, and I mean, why don't they realize that, all these universities, you said that in Harvard, right, they have
I'm not sure it
adopted.
was Howard. It was some big university abroad.
Could have been Stanford, could have been
Whoever, yeah.
Stanford, yeah. So yeah, you do realize that all these big universities, they see the future and they understand how the students will be studying in the future, how their behavior will be uh, as far as studies are concerned. So I don't know, I mean, why I still see there are a lot of critics of edtech or online education. But yeah, that's, I mean, I would like to study more about it, and then maybe we can have a, different discussion about why. I mean, we can pick up the points of all the points of criticism that are raised by people, and
I don't
maybe
think these criticisms matter, because people have opinions like this on every topic. If you take medicine, medicine should be free, but if medicine is free, it wouldn't exist because no one would be doing it. Why would someone do something that wouldn't make them any profits? So I don't think education should be not profit. Like, there are non-profit, like Khan Academy is a
Mhm.
non-profit, edX is a non-profit, but I think people should be there should be no criticism against people who are doing it for the money, because even they improve the space, and people who don't want to pay are free to not pay. And there will
Mhm.
always be free alternatives out there. They might be lower in quality, but if you
Mhm.
want quality, it has to be paid for, because the person making it has to pay the bills, and he also wants to make money. And if he is not allowed to make money, he would rather do something else. So I
Yeah.
think these people don't get how the world works. If you ask me, they're living in some sort of idealistic bubble where everything should be free except their own labor, which everyone should pay for, which makes no sense.
And when they talk about it, I think what they're talking about is that schools or these online companies, they shouldn't be making profits. But when it comes to books, so every student has to have ready access to books. But they don't criticize the publishing houses publishing the books and selling it for profit, right? They don't criticize them. They just want to criticize the people who are delivering it and making it available at a scale.
Well, books. I think some books are definitely very overpriced. I bought this book called Introduction to Linear Algebra by Gilbert Strang,
Hmm.
and that book cost me 8,000 rupees. Now it's a
Hmm.
textbook. I mean, I don't mind paying 1,500 2,000 rupees for a textbook because it's
Hmm.
kind of a niche topic and the author has to make money. But you have to draw the line somewhere. 8,000 rupees for a textbook is a bit high, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
value is there. I'm not unhappy about spending the money. I just think it's a bit of an outlier pricing these foreign universities seem to be following with their textbook price. I've seen textbooks that were 30,000 as well, because it's $400, and apparently that's normal in the US. A college textbook would cost you 400 500 bucks, which is 400 500 US dollars. But when you bring it
Hmm.
in India, that's a ridiculous price. But do you feel that there'll be a lot of piracy in this industry? Because I remember when I was doing my education, there were a couple of students who couldn't afford to buy these lectures. So what they would do is they would buy one person would buy, and they would all like split the cost, and they would watch it
Hmm.
together. Do you think that'll eventually be a big thing, or do you believe that people will eventually say copy the material and distribute it illegally, and that would impact profit significantly because a lot of subjects don't change enough year to year for a new edition to be warranted?
Hmm. I I remember reading somewhere, uh, if something is available online, it is like there are 100% chances that it is like hackable, or it is, I mean, it is prone to piracy. Similar is with lectures. So I can talk about my industry. So we sell lectures to students who are pursuing professional courses, like CA, CS, CMA, and there also the similar thing applies. So a lot of students who come from, who are not able to pay for the classes, or maybe, they've invested a lot of attempts and they don't want to pay for the classes all over again because they've paid once, right? So what they usually do, and I've seen this I mean, happening during my preparation as well. So this thing is definitely there, and a lot of people who are building the technology required to impart the education in the online space, they are definitely taking care of it. So we work in two models, right? One is that you can watch the lectures in your mobile app, and second is the model wherein you can watch the lectures in your laptop. So it becomes a lot harder to hack something when it's on phone. Although, I mean, Android specifically is not very safe when it comes to apps or your content. But
Innovative people figure it out.
sorry.
Innovative people, like people who really want to do it, will figure
Mm,
it out. Like you
yeah, yeah,
can't
yeah.
stop someone who's sufficiently motivated.
Yes, so that is there, but it's still a lot harder than it is to do on the laptop. So we are working with another developer who's building this software for the teachers, for all the on all the people who are delivering content. So what it does is that when that software is so they have this inbuilt player, okay? So when that player is running, I mean, you're running the classes in that player, you won't be able to operate any other function, or any screen recording software can be turned on. See, the last option could be like you can, just use the mobile phone and record the lecture. That's just the like lender of the last resort. But like you really really have to invest a lot of time if you want to hack something to that extent. So
I suppose you
I
could,
think,
like, put the person's email ID or something on the video, like burn it
hmm,
in the video itself.
yeah, watermark, like put the watermarks and keep it moving. That sort of thing is already there in the software, that the kind of software that we use to deliver the lectures. But talking about the piracy thing, it's definitely there. I mean, we see, a lot of I mean, we see that movies, I mean, people are not able to even control the movies. They get leaked the second day they're launched, right? They're released. So piracy is definitely going to be something content creators or content people who are delivering the content, they will be wary of it. But at the same time, I think there will be a very new space coming in, which will be entirely focusing on the privacy, which will be, their main focus area would be to help you, which can help you protect your content and not, at least not make it easily hackable, I would say.
Here's my thoughts on this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, like I'm not 100% sure because I'm not in this particular business, but here's how I think it'll play out. Eventually, anything that can be hacked like this will be hacked, but the value would not be particularly in the lectures themselves, but more like if you buy this video lecture, you will have access to the teacher by email or something. And because these are like high scale items, the costs would become cheaper. Like you, instead of buying a lecture for 7,000, it could become say 1,500, 2,000 rupees because you're now selling across the world, or across the country. Sorry. So it'll become less prohibitively expensive. So people are less likely to steal. And I think the value would be in community, because I know a website. Okay, this website is called Wall Street Playboys, and they have a book, and if you are a buyer of the book, they do Q&As every month. So if you have to enter your purchase ID, and if you enter your purchase ID, then you can ask a question. And a lot of people would buy the book simply to have the ability to ask a question on their forum. And I think this would be something in the future. Like you buy the product, that will give you access to some sort of forum where you can ask questions and discuss things. And the forum access is what you're paying for with the product, and not just the product itself. And if you pay for the official product, you get updates, etc. So I think that might be the future of the industry, so to speak.
You're 100% correct. In fact, this is something we are trying on. I mean, we are also trying this, wherein we are, providing the content for free, but access to the teacher, doubt support. So, all these support services, they will be sold at premium. However, the content, it will eventually become cheaper and cheaper, because I mean, looking at the scale, you just have to sit and record once, and then it can be used, the content can be used for like couple of years to come. So that definitely makes sense. And in fact, I mean, even I, to some extent, believe that eventually all the content will be provided for free. It's just that the feeling of community, having a doubt support, having a community where you can talk to the peers and network with them. So that is something, the additional or the ancillary or the support services, you can say. And in fact, personal counseling sessions also, combined with this, with the mentor or the instructor directly, that is something, which we can see. I mean, that would grow in the future, I believe.
Well, maybe not directly with the person, but foreign universities. Okay, this is
Hmm.
something I watched this lecture. Like, I took this course called CS50, that is Computer Science 50. This was by
Hmm.
Harvard, and it's freely available on the internet. And what they have is they have a main professor who gives a lecture, and then they have something called TAs, which are teachers assistants, and
Hmm.
these guys are supposed to answer questions for students. So, say 10 students would have one TA, and any
Hmm.
questions they have or any problems they have with the assignments, they can always call them up and ask these guys, how do I do this? Or they're there for their support. I think that might be a thing. For example, if there'd be one main professor who would like record lectures, and there would be like 10, 20 TAs working under him, and
Hmm.
anyone who buys this product, the lectures, will be given some kind of WhatsApp or phone line access to the TA. He can call this TA up, say,
Yeah.
at during given durations of time. Let's say he'll be given 6 month access to a TA for
Hmm.
say one attempt, and if he wants, say, if he fails that attempt and he wants access for next year, he'll have to repurchase the product. So that would be an incentive to buy the new edition, so to speak.
Hmm. Makes sense. So, can you, like, in this kind of model, can you contact the professor or not? Or, I mean, not at all, or you can contact by paying some additional premium? How does it work?
So I don't know that because I took the online class thing here, and but
Okay.
from what I observed, like from what I guessed, that is that this person, you can like talk to them on email or on the phone, or maybe even physically if you are in the university. And
Hmm.
but you don't talk to the main professor. You All of your questions are answered by the TA, and this makes it scalable. Because if you're selling the main professor's time, there's
Mm,
only so many students you can sell to. But if you are selling the time of the TA, then you can hire a lot of TAs. And if
right.
you have some kind of, eventually you would build a FAQ, a frequently asked questions thing, because people would be emailing you similar questions. So I think you can eventually build a body of knowledge that would be on your forums that people could search, and it would minimize time wastage and people would not ask repeated questions. I think that might be the future. Do
Makes
you
sense.
believe that eventually only a couple of professors would be left in the industry, just like how it happened with e-commerce, where Amazon is the biggest one now because online gives you infinite scale. So the person who grows very fast and takes over the market, it becomes impossible for anyone else to compete because this person has a lot of goodwill. He already has a ton of scale, so he can sell cheaply. So, do you think, say, in 10 years, we would have some professors who would be so big that everybody in India knows about them and everybody buys from them? And then there would be a couple of very small professors who are fighting for scraps, so to speak, like small Shopify stores versus Amazon.
Um, okay, so there were a lot of. I will come to it, but I want to talk about something similar. So in the US, we can talk about there were a lot of, in fact, in India as well, there are a lot of mom and pop stores, right? A lot of grocery stores. And when these, large stores like Macy's and all, they came in, so everybody believed. So these little stores, these vendors, they were completely, they ran out of the business, and people used to. I mean, they completely shifted to all these stores like large stores or hypermarkets, as you call them. And when online came, when Amazon came, Macy's also started having a bad time in their business, right? Like, because people shifted to online shopping. So I think this kind of shift that we see there, it's kind of similar. I wouldn't say that it's completely a replica of it, but it's kind of similar to that, wherein yes, I believe that a lot of local teachers, they would have a hard time because students will have a lot of options online, so they'll have when they'll have when they can see that they have access to better teachers, why won't they study from them? Why would they study from the local teachers who might just be having like little experience in the subject or something like that? um about the professors thing, about the thing that only a specialized faculty would be there, I think this will hold true, but I'm yet to see that how it is going to turn in the future, because a lot of things are connected. So whatever we are studying, it has to be, it has to be updated constantly, especially the subjects in which a lot of amendments are coming. Specifically, if I talk about in the CA context, in the chartered accountancy context, so the law keeps changing on regular basis. So it is definitely like that. A lot of teachers, they will be having a, a big fair share in the subject that they're teaching. But at the same time, if they are not going to, I mean, stay connected, or they're not updating their content regularly, then definitely they'll have, I mean, they'll face the repercussions of that. Maybe somebody would be waiting for the opportunity to just come in and have a dent in the market. But yeah, the statement does hold true that a lot of small teachers will definitely have a hard time. They will have to eventually shift to other kind of jobs.
Yes, I also see a trend where there's fewer people opting for professional courses now. And when you put these two forces together, where there's a couple of popular professors sort of taking over the market because they have a brand online, and that there are fewer students available for the market now. I think this is kind of catastrophe, so to speak, for a lot of smaller professors, because for a physical class to be viable, there has to be a minimum number of students, so to speak, a break even clientele, and eventually
Hmm.
it'll become harder and harder, or it'll take longer for them to get a break even clientele. So right now, if you have to start a class, let's say you need 1 year to get that break even clientele, but this might become 2 or 3 or 4 years in the future to build enough brand to get physical students. So I think it might become unviable as a profession in the future for a lot of people. And I think that follows other industries as well, because if you take anything which online is eating up, it's becoming less and less worth it to be in that physical market.
So it all started with this concept of MOOC, right? MOOC, like massive online open
Massively
courses.
online open
And
courses.
yeah, it's called as MOOC. So that was the concept that was started. I mean, Coursera and EDX. So Coursera is backed by Google, and EDX is backed by Microsoft. So
An
these are
Indian guy
the
runs that, right?
two.
There's an Indian guy who has edX. I like that guy.
I'm not sure about that, but I think Coursera has the professor from Harvard or Stanford, I think. Never mind. So
Oh,
yeah,
Coursera has a bunch of universities. So I took
I
this
mean, it was
course called Dan to Tetris, which was taught by the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. So I think
Mhm.
all universities can upload their courses there.
Yeah, but how do you think these universities are going to justify the amount that they're charging from the students who are studying in the university? Like, how do you think they're going to justify the cost? Like, what do you think what additional they are going to do in the online space apart from selling the online courses, which are kind of the replica of what is already being taught in their classes?
I think these big universities are screwed, so to speak, because their value is in the credentials they provide. Right now, there is no real value in the education because they're not adding so much value over what people can learn online. Their biggest value is credentials, and the value of credentials is dying down significantly. So, if you did an MBA 20 years ago, it was far more valuable than an MBA you do today because today, if you do an MBA, there's a pretty good chance that it's worthless. You might not even find a job after that. Even if you go abroad, I have friends who went to England and did an MBA and came back, and it was worthless. So I think these universities are now cashing in on 1 year MBA, 6 month MBA, 2 year MBA. They just want to make money as quickly as possible, but the value of these degrees are close to or approaching zero. I think so.
Hmm.
This is my experience since I'm learning computer science and I'm doing it online. I've taken like at least 30 full fledged MOOCs in the last year. Like not 30, maybe like I've taken at least 15 to 20. And I usually buy the certificates too. So I have some kind of credential that they gave me. So if you take, say, MIT, I did MIT's calculus course, single variable calculus 1A, 1B, 1C,
Mm-hmm.
and it was exactly the same material that they were teaching in their universities. They had just recorded it
Mm-hmm.
and they were teaching it here in edX, and they even provided two TAs who were answering students' questions. And I think I learned quite a bit from them. Would I pay MIT money? Like, would I fly to the US and pay them to live there and pay tuition to get the same thing in physical? I don't think so because I paid $100 a course. I paid $100 for each course for their
Mm-hmm.
certification online. I'm not. I don't see myself paying thousands of dollars for the same thing. And with so many universities competing with each other, I think a lot of this STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, math, which doesn't change, like that anybody who is knowledgeable can teach you math, which you need to know. So I think eventually all of it would be online, and these universities would have no basis to charge a lot of money. And I don't think I'm not sure if this business would last very long where they're just selling degrees because
Mm-hmm.
employers are not that dumb, but right earlier it used to be that if you went to college you were smart and you had sort of been credentialed and pre-selected to be smart, but that is rapidly changing. Right now anybody who can pay for a degree, like if you can pay the fee, they'll take you in. So
Hmm.
the value of it is definitely on the fall, and the costs for some reason keep increasing every year. So I
Hmm.
don't think it's worth it, and I don't think it's going to rebound in the future. So unless you want to say become a doctor, which requires some sort of degree or license legally, I
Hmm.
think if the value of a degree is going to zero.
A lot of people, I mean, who are in these Ivy League colleges, um, I mean, I think I mean, I would love to hear from them as well. Like, what do they think? Like, what kind of like different experience? Because I remember I was, like hearing someone's podcast, and he is from one of the Ivy Leagues. So he was telling you that they change you completely. Like, you come out as a different person after graduating from there. So
Well,
uh,
four
you know,
years tends to do that. Like if you spend 4 years even doing anything else, you would call yourself a different person. Although, I mean, I'm not saying there's zero value in being in a university because you tend to network and meet a lot of people, but
yeah.
the price they charge for it, and you have to be in student debt for 10 years, 5 years, and it's not worth
Mm,
it. And I think all the other things they give you are sort of things you can get from the outside world without a university. So strictly
mm,
speaking, the value added by a university is not a lot, because a
mm,
sufficiently motivated person can get them without a university. Like if you're lazy and you need a university, that's a different thing. But if you're a sufficiently motivated person who can study on their own and is willing to go out in the real world and try the ideas that you're learning, I think you should not need one.
mm.
What do you think is the future of, say, the economy in general with this whole lockdown happening?
I think I should be the one asking this question from you, and you should start answering.
Well, my opinion goes something like this: that we've been in lockdown for 9 months now, and a lot of businesses have borne the brunt of the damage, like restaurants, hotel industry, etc. And it's also changed the landscape significantly because a lot of people are now introduced to the online world. I know people who have never made an online transaction before are now regularly buying online. So I think it'll never be the same. Like, some people are now thinking that we're going back to quote unquote normal, but whatever normal was, I think that's just gone. It's never coming back because the waters have changed. People have different habits now. People want different things now. So if you are used to, say, buying groceries from Amazon now, you will continue that habit. You wouldn't like go back to buying everything from your local store. You might buy something that's not available, but let's say it's Sunday and you're feeling lazy and you don't feel like going to the store, but you still have groceries to buy. Now you have been introduced to Amazon and they'll send it to your house, and it's free delivery. You save your time. You don't have to carry everything, and you've gotten used to that comfort. So I think the market has changed, and every industry will go through significant change, and I think a lot of industries would sort of either adapt or die. If we take real estate, for example, property used to be expensive. It is still expensive in cities, but it's cheaper. Like, it's not cheap, but rent is cheaper in smaller places than bigger places. And that's because people tend to congregate in cities. People come to work in a city. But if work from home is the norm, why do you need to come to a city? You can just work from wherever you are. So rents and property prices in cities should decline, unless I'm mistaken. So I think the future is very different, and I don't think we are ever going back to the past ever again, because people's habits, expectations, and their way of life has changed significantly.
Yeah, although life has come to normal for a lot of people, but we cannot ignore the impact of lockdown. I mean, it's still there. I mean, ever since the lockdown happened, I have not even eaten out once, like not even once. Two outings a month are pretty normal for everyone. I mean, I am not a very outgoing person, but two outings a month were pretty normal for me. But like ever since lockdown has happened, I've not eaten out once even. So um, that definitely this I mean it holds true that the dynamics have completely changed, and in fact a lot of traditional businesses, they have you know they are the ones who have suffered majorly. Remember, I was telling you how my father lost one of his major clients because the company was not able to bear the warehouse expenses, the godown expenses. So they had to shift their godown or the warehouse to a different place, which had lesser rent or was cheaper to afford. So
Mhm.
that's how, because that was changed, so the logistics had to be routed from a different place. So that's why Faridabad was cut down. So that's just one part of it. There could be, a lot of things going on. Maybe I would discuss with my father and come up with new
I,
insights.
I think the
But
ripple effect is very strong, and I don't think we have actually borne the brunt of this, because right now I think what's going on and why people think they're returning to normal and their lives are returning to normal is that demand. People are buying things they haven't bought in the last 6 7 months, 8 9 months now. So which is why it's giving an illusion that demand is back to normal. But once the
mm,
tree has been shaken again, I think
mm,
there's a lot of uncertainty, and people have received pay cuts, and businesses down for a lot of people, especially brick and mortar businesses, down way more than people think. But online, everything is done well. My businesses have doubled. So it just like poof, and I was like a duck in a lake, and the water level rose. But offline businesses have fallen significantly, and we will feel the ripple effects of it over the next year or two. Because think of it like this: okay, you have a business and you have employees. Okay, when the business is not doing well, employees are fired or they receive pay cuts. When these guys are fired and receive pay cuts, their income declines, right? By definition. So their consumption, they start saving more money, and they spend as little as they can. And when people spend little money, well, business declines even more, because there are less people buying, and less money is being given to them, which
mm,
means that even their employees sort of get pay cuts, or the business closes down. So it's
mm.
sort of like a bad cycle, and I think the cycle has been triggered, and we might we might feel the brunt of this by next year.
Hmm.
Well, this is
So
just a
what do
theory,
you
by the way. Like I hope this does not happen. I hope I'm wrong.
so what do you think? We'll see the times similar to 2008 or the 1929's Great Depression? Like, what do you think the situation looks more like?
Well, in 2008, I wasn't old enough for me to know much about the economy, but I read a book on 1929 crash.
Hmm.
And I don't think it'll be as bad as a depression, because they've printed too much money for it to be a depression. But
Hmm.
I think the idea that things are returning to normal is misplaced, and I think we might be in for harder times, at least for the near future, because a lot of industries are facing a lot of issues, and right now they haven't laid as many people off because they're expecting things to be better, or it's just not feasible for them to do so right now. But eventually they will, and it's going to
Hmm.
have that circular effect that I talked about.
Hmm.
And I don't think any government or anything can be done about this. This is just like an economic cycle, and there's no at least there's no way I know of that can solve this. We just have to live through it. And I see a lot of other damages that were done by this lockdown, because I know a couple of people who graduated last year,
Hmm.
and they are unemployed for a year. They haven't found jobs.
That's sad. That's sad. Do you also have friends who belong to the manufacturing sector? Do you have any insights? How is their business going on?
But I know this person whose father is into the manufacturing of clothes. So they manufacture clothes, and he says that the sales are down significantly. It isn't down to zero,
Hmm.
but people aren't buying those luxury sort of clothes anymore. So like I have shirts that cost 500 rupees, and I have shirts that cost 4,000 rupees, and people are now only spending money on the 500 rupee shirts. So they're
Hmm.
losing money on the expensive items. And earlier, a lot of money was made in marriages, where people would buy expensive clothes, and they'd even spend like 30 40,000 on a dress, especially women's clothes. But right now marriages are much smaller, and because people are not allowed and people are reluctant to go out into a gathering, so sales of all of this type of clothing has gone down, which is impacting their profits. And I think this is what's happening in every industry.
Hmm. So I'm not sure, but my friend, I mean, a couple of my friends, they deal into, they're into manufacturing, and it's more, you can say, like steel or machine manufacturing. And I haven't heard, that the situation is really bad for them. But I hope that, I really hope that things remain the same, as you said, that next year is going to be tougher than this year. So I hope that this continues. But we should be ready for the worst, I think.
Yeah, it's good to prepare. And there's one other thing that I've noticed, that a lot of this lockdown sort of, when it's opening up, say 40% or 33% capacity, but a lot of businesses are not viable at 33% capacity. Because I was just like, researching the economics of a hotel, and a hotel, often a lot of these cheaper hotels, they are priced in a way that they only make money at, say, above 60% capacity, because they have to pay the
Hmm.
rent, they have to pay cleaning staff, and they have a lot of fixed expenses like loan payments, etc. And at 40% or 33% capacity, it isn't profitable for them to be open, so they would choose to be closed. And that's what happening for a lot of people right now, that even though they are legally allowed to be open up to a certain percent of their capacity, they can't do that because they will lose more money this way.
These kind of businesses, they are dependent. I mean, the break even game is really, really have to be strong. Otherwise, they'll be like running in losses for a long time, and eventually they'll have to file for bankruptcy.
See, that's the thing, Pooja. It's not eventually. It's these people. Almost every business in India runs on some kind of overdraft bank limit, or they have some kind of debt, and
Hmm.
they don't have so much runway for it to be a long time. So even 3-4 months can tank a business. Eventually, they've already survived 9 months. Some of them have survived. A lot of them have closed.
Hmm.
Because there was a restaurant that I liked going to, and I was just like, um, going for a joyride in my car, and that restaurant is closed down, and a lot of other restaurants
Hmm.
have closed down, and a lot of other places are closing down, and because they just can't stay around for a long period. And I think some restaurants are even doing this thing where they're telling the landlord that instead of paying you a fixed rent, we'll give you a percentage of our turnover. Because
Oh.
and that works for both of them, because this restaurant guy gets to operate and he loses that big fixed expense. So what's
Hmm.
basically happening for him is that his profit margin has gone down, but at least he is in business. And for the
Okay.
landlord, well, it's a bad time and he can't find tenants anyway. So at least it's some money. It's better than nothing.
Okay. So thank you so much, Harsh, for joining in. It was really fun discussing all these new insights about the economy, about the education sector. I would love to have you here another time very soon.
All right. Awesome, Pooja. Nice talking to you as well.
Bye. Take care.